Hey everybody, Tyler here at the Moorpark City Library with another guitar lesson for you. This is video 3 of our Guitar Club series, if you will, while we're still doing virtual programs here. If you remember, in our previous 2 videos, I went over how to tune our 1, 2, 3, 4 guitar exercise, our warm-up exercise, and a few chord shapes. So I'm going to kind of build off some of those chord shapes today. I hope you've already done your exercise. If not, review the first or second video and we'll show you how to do that again and make sure your guitar is in tune. As you'll see, I got my acoustic guitar today, but this is totally applicable to an electric guitar, as were the previous 2 videos. So as a quick chord review, when we started, we did our E minor and our A sus2 chords, and then in the electric guitar video, we did our power chord shape. Those work for whatever kind of guitar you're playing, and we're going to build off those first 2 chord shapes, and then I'm going to show you a new chord today. Alright, so if you remember right, our E minor was up in this fret right here. And it's just these 2 fingers. Remember I said it's got kind of a sad, kind of somber tonality to it. We're going to learn an E major today. And so to do that, what we're going to need to do is put our second finger where our pointy finger is, and put our ring finger where our pointy finger was. And then if you see here, my pointy finger almost instinctually wants to go to the next string down, and that's going to be the 1st fret of the G string. So here's our E minor, here's our E major. Pretty simple. Now there are various ways you can do this. I've seen people do it like this. So that's a little bit more advanced, but you can learn that later. But for now, I would say stick with this shape. And the cool thing about this shape is if you drop all of your fingers down 1 string respectively each, you get what's called A minor. So we have E major, A minor. Same shape, different strings. Pretty simple. So now, without having to move our fingers too much, we've just expanded our chord repertoire, if you will, to an additional 2 chords. So we have E minor, A sus2, E major, and A minor. Now, those 4 chords, along with your power chord shape, will unlock all sorts of songs in your fretboard here. Now, the next chord I want to get to is going to be one of the more, it's probably, I don't know if it's the most common chord that you'll see, especially on an acoustic guitar, but it's certainly up there. And that's going to be G major. And this one, when I first started, was a little bit difficult because it's the first chord that I learned that required all 4 fingers on the fretboard. Now, I see some people do just 3 fingers, and that's totally fine. But I would suggest to every new player to learn this one earlier in your guitar development because it helps you develop dexterity in your left hand, and it just helps you get a little bit more familiar with your fretboard and doing these kind of small incremental movements like in a short, like a tiny little bit of space here. Because this is all 4 chords, and we're only using 2 frets, so it feels like your hand is going to kind of, be mashing up against itself. So that being said, let's get started on our G major. So the cool thing about this is if you start with going back to our E minor, if you notice my ring and my pinky finger are kind of already curved there a little bit, just below where they're going to eventually want to be. Now, my second finger here, I'm going to put it on the 3rd fret of my A string. So if I take this shape, I'm almost just pivoting on my pointy finger there. Now what I'm going to do, and I'm going to leave that pointy finger there, right where it would be for an E minor. So those are the 2 top notes of my G there. This note right here, that's the root note, that's G, hence the name. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ring finger and I'm going to put it on the 3rd fret of the B string. Then I'm going to take my pinky and I'm going to put it on the 3rd fret of my little e for a full G major chord. Now, some people will just hold down, they'll take that ring finger off and just hold down the 2 E strings, which is totally fine. And I've even seen some people ignore that little E down there at the bottom. Totally fine. I don't know if you can pick up, there's subtle nuances, but for the most part you are kind of you're playing the same chord without going into the theory of why both work and what the differences are. Just go ahead and take my word that they're both okay. However, I would suggest that for the benefit of developing that dexterity and the ability to curve your fingers properly and have the strength to actually hold the chords down, especially if you're playing an acoustic guitar, it takes a little bit more muscle there. I would suggest doing all 4 fingers. It's just going to help you out in the long run. And once you can do the G chord really well, you can kind of start to do all the other chords. Everything becomes a little bit easier after that. And you'll find that a lot of songs will either start in G or they have a G in them. Eventually we're going to add C and D to our chord repertoire, and there's a G-D-C song is kind of a joke, but it's true in guitar or any rock or pop music, that millions and millions of songs have been written using just those 3 chords. And we're not to C and D yet, we will get there, but there's also millions of songs with E minor and G. Not going to tell you what that is. I hope you guess it. If you do, cool. If not, it's okay. That's a great little exercise to do there. You just take 2 chords that you're familiar with. So I hope you're familiar with your E minor and you've been practicing that. And then your G right after. And then you could do whatever if you want to do A minor. But I like using that E to G exercise because you can go real slow with it. And you don't have to jump right to putting all 4 of your fingers down. You can kind of work your way into it. And even if you have a hard time with these 2 fingers down here, because these are typically the ones, your middle and your pinky are going to be the ones that take the longest to develop strength in. Like I said, it's called a G because the G is the root note. That's really the most important note there. So if you're a little off with these 2 down here, and you just want to play and not worry too much about making sure you're 100% accurate, focus mostly on the top of the fretboard and then work your way down to the bottom of the fretboard. Anyway, that'll do it for today. Hope you guys are having fun and staying safe, and we'll see you next time.